If you're over 40, listen carefully. Your blood vessels may already be breaking down and you have no idea it's happening. No pain, no warning. Just a slow, silent loss of the one system that keeps your heart, your brain, and your entire body alive. And when that system fails, it doesn't start with a symptom, it ends with one. A heart attack, a stroke, memory loss that doesn't come back. The dangerous part isn't that your body can't fix this. It's that your body is trying to repair itself every single day and you're not activating that repair system. You eat daily thinking you're doing the right thing. But most foods don't trigger regeneration. They don't send the signal your body needs to release stem cells, to restore damaged vessels, to protect what's already weakening. So the damage keeps building, layer by layer, year after year, until it becomes something you can't ignore anymore. But here's where everything changes. In controlled human studies, one specific food, something simple, accessible, has been shown to double the body's repair response in just 30 days. Not in theory, not in a lab. In real people. And once you understand why that works, you'll never look at food the same way again. Hello, I'm Dr. Nathaniel Li. I'm an emergency medicine physician and a medical researcher. After more than 30 years of studying how the body protects and heals itself and witnessing patients struggle with chronic diseases that I now believe in many cases could be treated far more easily than we've been taught, I began to question whether we've been missing something fundamental about the body's natural ability to heal, and what I discovered completely changed the way I think about disease. Dr. Nathaniel Li once said, "The greatest mistake we make is believing the body only reacts when something goes wrong. That assumption is not just inaccurate, it's dangerous. Because while you're waiting for symptoms to appear, your body is already working behind the scenes, constantly repairing, restoring, and maintaining itself at a level you rarely notice. You are not a passive system waiting to break. You are a living system that is actively trying to stay alive and functional every second of the day. At the center of that process is something most people have heard of, but very few truly understand: stem cells. These are not abstract scientific concepts. They are your built-in repair system cells that can regenerate damaged tissue, rebuild blood vessels, and restore function where it's beginning to decline. And here's what changes everything. This system does not wait for an emergency. It doesn't wait for a diagnosis. It is always on, always scanning, always responding whether you realize it or not. The real question is not whether your body can repair itself. It's whether you are supporting that process or unknowingly slowing it down. Because every choice you make, especially what you eat, either strengthens that repair system or interferes with it. You are influencing that balance every single day. But what truly matters is understanding the exact mechanism unfolding inside you right now. Beneath every heartbeat, there is a complex system operating that you have never actually seen, but it is the reason you are alive right now. Every second, your heart pushes blood through an intricate network of vessels, delivering oxygen, nutrients, and critical signals to every organ in your body. But this system is not static. It is constantly being repaired, renewed, and maintained. And the key players in that process are stem cells. These cells originate deep inside your bone marrow, where they are produced and released into your bloodstream when needed. Once circulating, they act like a mobile repair force, traveling through your blood vessels to identify areas of damage and begin the process of regeneration. Their primary target is often the inner lining of your blood vessels, known as the endothelium. The endothelium is not just a passive layer. It is a living, dynamic surface that determines how well your blood flows. When it is healthy, it is incredibly smooth, almost frictionless, allowing blood cells to move freely without sticking or slowing down. A useful way to understand this is to imagine a perfectly polished ice rink. When the surface is smooth, anything that touches it glides effortlessly across. That's how your blood should move through your vessels. But over time, due to factors like excess sugar, unhealthy fats, environmental toxins, and oxidative stress, that smooth surface begins to break down. It becomes rough, irregular, and sticky. And once that happens, blood cells start to adhere to the vessel walls, creating the early conditions for plaque buildup and restricted flow. This is where stem cells come in. They are sent to these damaged areas to repair and restore that smooth, functional surface. They help rebuild the endothelium, improving elasticity, and allowing your vessels to function properly again. But this repair process is not guaranteed. It depends heavily on whether your body is receiving the right signals to activate and support these cells. And that brings us to a critical realization. The very system that keeps you alive and functioning at an optimal level is also highly sensitive. It can be strengthened or slowly weakened by the choices you make every single day. The problem is you don't feel these changes when they begin. There is no alarm, no immediate signal telling you that your blood vessels are under stress. Instead, the damage builds quietly, influenced by things that seem ordinary, even harmless in daily life. Excess sugar, high sodium intake, processed fats, and constant exposure to environmental toxins all create a state known as oxidative stress. This is not just a buzzword, it is a biochemical condition where unstable molecules begin to damage cells, including the delicate endothelial lining of your blood vessel. Over time, this repeated stress scrapes, weakens, and disrupts the smooth surface that your circulation depends on. At the same time, factors in your environment, air pollution, chemical residues, even chronic psychological stress add another layer of strain. Your body is constantly fighting to neutralize these effects, but it does not have unlimited resources. And when the balance shifts, even slightly, repair becomes less efficient. This is where it becomes personal. You may start to notice subtle changes, feeling more tired than usual, needing longer to recover, struggling to concentrate, or realizing your memory isn't as sharp as it used to be. These are not random signs of aging. They are often early indicators that your vascular system is no longer functioning at its best. What makes this dangerous is how gradual it is. You adapt to these small declines without realizing what they represent. But beneath that adaptation, the underlying damage continues to accumulate, creating the conditions for more serious outcomes later. And yet, within this problem lies a remarkable opportunity. Because in controlled human studies, even a small intervention, something as simple as a specific dietary change, has produced results that surprised even researchers. In a study that Dr. Nathaniel Li found particularly compelling, researchers looked at individuals with coronary artery disease, people whose blood vessels were already compromised, less flexible, and more prone to damage. These were not perfectly healthy individuals. They were people at real risk, with measurable impairment in how their circulatory system functioned. At the beginning of the study, scientists measured two critical things: the number of circulating stem cells in the bloodstream and the ability of the blood vessels to expand and recover under stress, a key indicator of vascular health. Both markers were predictably low. Then something surprisingly simple was introduced. Instead of a drug, instead of a complex medical intervention, participants were given a daily dose of dark chocolate, specifically high cacao content, rich in plant-based bioactive compound, 2 servings per day, consistently, over a period of 30 days. Nothing else was significantly altered. No extreme lifestyle overhaul, just one targeted nutritional input. At the end of that month, the results were measured again. What researchers found was not subtle. The number of circulating stem cells had doubled, not increased, slightly doubled. At the same time, the responsiveness and elasticity of the blood vessels also improved significantly, indicating that the endothelium, the inner lining we talked about earlier, was functioning better. In other words, the body's repair system had been activated in a measurable, clinically relevant way. What makes this result so powerful is not just the outcome, but the mechanism behind it. Dark chocolate, when rich in cacao, contains compounds known as polyphenols, particularly proanthocyanidins. These molecules enter the bloodstream and act as signals, encouraging the release and activity of stem cells from the bone marrow. This is not a surface-level effect. It is a direct interaction with the body's internal repair pathways. And this raises an important realization. If something this simple can produce such a measurable change in people who are already at risk, what does that mean for someone like you before serious damage has fully developed? And that leads to a much bigger question. Is this just an isolated finding, or is it part of a broader principle that we can apply every single day? The answer lies in something far simpler than you might expect: what you choose to eat every single day. Not in extreme diets, not in expensive supplements, but in specific natural compounds that quietly interact with your body's repair system. And once you understand where these compounds come from, you start to see that many of the most powerful signals are hiding in places most people overlook. Take fruit, for example. Most people focus on the sweetness, the vitamins, the surface level benefits. But what's often ignored is the peel. The outer layer of fruits like apples, pears, and berries contains a compound called ursolic acid. And this is where things get interesting. Ursolic acid has been shown to stimulate the release of stem cells from the bone marrow, essentially calling them into circulation, where they can begin repairing damaged tissue. The part most people throw away is the part that may be sending one of the strongest repair signals in your diet. Then there's beta-glucan, a type of soluble fiber found in foods like mushrooms, oats, and barley. At first glance, it's known for supporting gut health, but that's only part of the story. Beta-glucan also plays a role in activating immune pathways and influencing stem cell behavior, helping the body respond more effectively to damage. And here's the twist in mushrooms. The stem actually contains more beta-glucan than the cap, yet it's often discarded without a second thought. What seems insignificant is often where the real value is concentrated. Now consider cacao, the foundation of dark chocolate. This is not about sugar-laden candy bars. We're talking about high cacao content sources rich in polyphenols, particularly proanthocyanidins. These compounds have been shown to directly stimulate stem cell activity and improve vascular function, as we saw earlier. Something many people associate with indulgence is, in its pure form, a powerful biological signal. And finally, olive oil, often described simply as a healthy fat, but its role goes far beyond that. Olive oil contains bioactive compounds like hydroxytyrosol that help protect stem cells from oxidative stress. Think of it as a stabilizing force within your bloodstream, creating an environment where repair cells can survive and function more effectively. It doesn't just activate the system, it shields it, but food doesn't only trigger these processes. It also determines whether the system itself remains intact and capable of responding at all. Your body doesn't just repair, it rebuilds. That process is called angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels, and it is one of the most powerful, least appreciated systems keeping you alive. Every day, your body evaluates where blood flow is needed, where tissue is under stress, and where microscopic damage has occurred. In response, it can grow new vessels to improve circulation, deliver oxygen, and restore function where it's beginning to decline. And just as important, it can also stop that growth when it's no longer needed, maintaining a precise balance. The easiest way to understand this is to think of your body like a skilled gardener. When a patch of soil is dry, the gardener adds water. When grass is thin, seeds are planted. When growth becomes excessive, it's trimmed back. Nothing is random. Everything is regulated. That's exactly how angiogenesis works inside you. It is not chaotic expansion. It is controlled, responsive, and highly intelligent. Your body is constantly reshaping its internal landscape to keep you functioning at your best. But like any system that relies on balance, angiogenesis is sensitive. If the signals that guide it become disrupted by poor diet, chronic inflammation, or oxidative stress, the system can become inefficient. Too little vessel growth leads to poor circulation. Too much, in the wrong context, can contribute to disease. The key is regulation. And that regulation is influenced, more than most people realize, by what you put into your body every day. And when this system is working the way it should, the benefits extend far beyond your blood vessels. Dr. Nathaniel Li always emphasizes one thing: living longer means nothing if your brain is no longer working. You can extend lifespan, optimize metabolism, and improve physical strength. But if cognitive function begins to decline, everything else starts to lose its meaning. Memory, focus, emotional stability, these are not secondary to health. They define it. And what's often overlooked is how closely brain health is connected to the same vascular system we've been discussing. Your brain relies on a constant, uninterrupted supply of oxygen and nutrients delivered through an incredibly dense network of blood vessels. When that network begins to weaken even slightly, the effects show up first in ways that are easy to dismiss. You forget names. You lose track of conversations. You feel mentally slower, less sharp. These are not just signs of aging. They are early signals that circulation to the brain is no longer as efficient as it should be. This is where something surprisingly simple becomes incredibly important. In clinical research, 1 cup of strawberries per day has been shown to reduce cognitive decline and even lower the risk of depression associated with that decline. Strawberries contain bioactive compounds like ellagic acid and anthocyanins, which help protect brain cells, reduce inflammation, and support vascular health within the brain itself. In other words, They are not just nourishing your body, they are helping preserve the function of your mind. And this changes the way you think about longevity. It's no longer about how many years you add, it's about what those years feel like when you live them. Because the real goal is not just to be alive, but to remain aware, connected, and capable. And this is where everything begins to shift, not just in your body, but in how you see yourself and your future. The truth is, the problem isn't what you're missing. It's not a lack of access, not a lack of options, and not some hidden breakthrough reserved for a select few. The systems that protect you, repair you, and keep you functioning are already built into your body. They've been there your entire life, quietly working in the background, adapting, responding, and trying to maintain balance. What's changed is not your biology, it's your environment and your habits. You are constantly feeding your body signals, but most of those signals are not activating the pathways designed to keep you healthy. They are neutral at best, disruptive at worst. So the system slows down, not because it's broken, but because it's not being used the way it was designed to be used. And that realization shifts everything, because it means the solution isn't something new you need to find. It's something you already have, but have never truly learned to use. And here's the part that surprises most people. You don't have to change your entire life to start activating this system. You don't need extreme diets or complicated routines. What matters is consistency and a few key choices that send the right signals every single day. Start simple. Keep the peel on your fruits whenever possible, because that's where powerful compounds like ursolic acid are concentrated. Include mushrooms in your meals, and don't discard the stems. They carry some of the highest levels of beta-glucan. Add extra virgin olive oil as a regular part of your diet, not just for flavor, but for its ability to protect your body's repair cells. And consider incorporating high cacao dark chocolate in moderation as a targeted way to support vascular function. None of these changes are extreme, but when repeated daily, they begin to shift how your body responds from the inside out, because sometimes the smallest changes are the ones that create the most profound difference. At this point, you might be asking, do I need large amounts for this to work, and can this replace medical treatment? The answer is straightforward. More is not better. What matters is consistency and quality over time. These foods are not meant to replace medications or professional care, but to support the biological systems that keep you functioning. You may also wonder how quickly results appear. The truth is, this is a cumulative process. Your body responds gradually as these signals are repeated daily. There's no shortcut, no instant switch, and the answer remains the same. Consistency matters more than perfection. If you've made it this far, you're probably not just watching a video. You're looking back at yourself, how you eat, how you sleep, how you ignore the small signals your body sends you every day. At the beginning, we talked about subtle changes, things that don't hurt immediately, but accumulate over time. And as we go back to this whole journey, one thing becomes clearer. Health isn't an event. It's a process of repeated choices every day. There's no such thing as too late or too early, only decisions you're making right now. What matters isn't how many times you've been wrong, but what changes you start making today. Because the body doesn't remember a single day. It remembers habits. The question isn't whether your body can heal itself, but rather, each day are you helping it become stronger or weakening it without realizing it?